Thank you for tuning in to a special edition of Community Focus. I'm your host, Previn Jones. Today we conclude our three-part Living Legends leadership series with our third and final legend, Change Happens CEO Reverend Leslie Smith, the dreamer who had the audacity to pursue his dreams in spite of insurmountable obstacles. Reverend Leslie Smith reveals what one must do in order to realize their own dreams. Join me as I interview Reverend Smith from his 27,000 square foot youth and administration building located in what was once called Crack Alley. Reverend Leslie Smith, coming up right now.
Man's desire to reach the unattainable and venture to new places led to the construction of bridges many centuries ago. Since then, bridges have had the ability to span huge distances and help in overcoming physical obstacles. By definition, a bridge is a structure created to connect two land masses, operating as a sealant by bridging gaps and functioning as a transitional passageway. A bridge also enables us to journey between worlds where new opportunities and transformations await. Change Happens has been a sustainable source of hope by serving as a bridge to its community for over 23 years. In his desire to connect those in need with the tools not only to survive but also to thrive, Reverend Leslie Smith founded Change Happens in 1982. Change Happens began in a renovated crack house and now stands 3 stories tall and covers 27,000 square feet in 3rd Ward.
Change Happens prides itself on making positive changes in people's lives. For over 20 years, we have been bridging the gap between children and families to become a valuable resource to them to help them overcome impossible challenges that they are faced with in neighborhoods.
Change Happens adult services include an HIV prevention education program and homeless service programs. There are over 1 million children in Texas who lack health insurance and thousands more who have inadequate coverage. For the last 12 years, Change Happens has worked passionately to offer families the opportunity to improve their health and quality of life through its Children's Health Day event. Children's Health Day provides children with health services such as hearing, dental, and vision screenings, immunizations, and other healthcare resources for the entire family. In times where society's problems weigh heavy and become increasingly overwhelming, our children sometimes get lost and struggle to find their way. These adversities make our children more susceptible to peer pressure. Change Happens youth programs were designed to counteract the negative forces threatening the well-being of youth.
Before I started coming to Change Happens, I was dealing with bullying issues. The girl was hitting me every day, and it made me feel embarrassed. When I started coming to Change Happens, they showed me how to prevent bullying, and they helped me put a stop to bullying.
Through mentoring, abstinence education, character building, and a wide range of physical, social, and cultural activities, these programs provide kids with well-rounded, enriching experiences to prepare for the world ahead of them.
Reverend Smith, let me first and foremost thank you for opening the doors of Change Happens to the viewing public, to have an opportunity to see the great work that you and your staff are doing over here in 3rd Ward and the greater Gulf Coast region. But before I talk about your work here in Houston, I want to go back to a place that's near and dear to your heart, a place called Shreveport, Louisiana, a place where you grew up. So what was it like growing up in Leslie Sr. and Virgil Smith's household?
Well, it was a good experience, a wonderful experience, and the experience I worked real hard on in raising my 5 kids and sharing how I was raised with them. My dad taught me business and my mom taught me faith. I grew up with my dad, more so working with him, alongside of him at a Gulf Oil franchise he got in 1959. And for an African American to get a Gulf Oil franchise in 1959, that was huge. So, and it was a full service station. So I started pumping gas for him when I was in the 1st grade. First, I thought it was just fun and looking forward to go up there. Then it became a job because I worked for him all the way up until my 2nd year in college. And every Sunday we had to go to church, and after church I would go to work for him because the station was open 7 days a week. Mom would do Sunday dinner, and one of the things I vowed not to eat when I left home was I didn't want no more pig ears and no more pig feet.
Pig ears.
Pig ears
Okay.
and pig feet. That was a Sunday regular. And so I decided after I left home that I wouldn't eat any more of those. But that was a good experience growing up there with my parents.
Now, I understand that you took over your father's business while you were still in high school. What did that experience teach you about life and business?
It taught me a whole lot because he gave me the responsibility to run that business. It actually helped me in what I'm doing now through Change Happens, because I went off to college in my junior year,
Okay.
and that's when I actually started taking the business and the management courses. And in college, I learned the theory that went with the practice. I already had the practice, and I got to college and I said, oh, that's why Dad did that. And so I learned the theory that went along with the practice. And my dad had only a high school education. He had no college, but he had the theory and the practice down. Just didn't know how to teach the theory part.
Okay.
But he definitely taught the practice part because I observed and worked with him every day.
Now, every time I come to the facility that we're sitting in right now, I want to shift back to your work here in Houston. This is a 27,000 square foot facility. And it amazes me when I walk in this building that I'm walking into someone's dream. This was a dream for you.
Oh, yes.
And I want you to tell the viewers about that dream, but then I want to follow with a question to ascertain, do you think in part the dream came out of your own personal pain, your own personal shortcomings early in life?
No, I believe that the dream was actually given to me by God. Meaning, I'm 59 years old now. 31 years ago, I had this dream that I was going to buy up some crack houses, and I was going to renovate them, and people were going to be everywhere trying to get into these houses. And I was on the inside of these houses teaching and preaching and giving out information that as people came in, they left change. And in that same dream, I dreamed that I built this building. And once I built this building in the dream, the process was repeated. People everywhere trying to get into this building. They were out in the foyer, they were in the window ledges, they was in the yard, just people on top of people. And I said to God in the dream, I built it too small because I can't get all these people in you're sending. Woke up, and that was in 1983 that I had that dream. And woke up from that dream. No, that was 1979 when I had that dream. Woke up from that dream and began to try to see what to do to make that come to reality. And so I believe my calling, it came out of calling to make a difference, because God had called me to the ministry 4 years before that dream. And so I wanted to make some type of impact on life and help people to change from where they were to where they could be.
Now, Change Happens started out as Families Under Urban and Social Attack.
Yes.
Where did that name come from, and how did you evolve or develop to Change Happens?
Well, Change Happens was the tagline for Families Under Urban and Social Attack all those years. Families Under Urban and Social Attack came from me looking into the neighborhood, seeing this big old need that families had that lived within the inner city in the urban setting, and the different things that was attacking them, like drugs and teenage pregnancy, dropping out of school, and all the things that affect the people in this particular environment. And that's where the name came from, Families Under Urban and Social Attack. I believe that was an attack on the family, which was a good name for all of those years that we had it. We just changed the name, 3 years ago. And that name change came out of, I wanted to be more proactive and more, I guess, assertive into what we were doing, and that's where Change Happened. I took the tagline and made it the name. And Change Happens came from a T-shirt way back in the 70s that said something else happens. But I couldn't use that as a tagline, so I said to myself, change happens.
Okay.
And so we actually have under the crack houses pictures. Hopefully you'll be able to show that before we redid them, and then the after effects, and in the middle of them we have change happens. This can happen to your life. Meaning, if a building can change that has no choice, that has no purpose, that don't even have an option to change, what about an individual? We have choices. We have options. So we can make that change in our lives.
Now, you've added community development to the Change Happens portfolio. First, tell me about the Change Happens portfolio. What all do you do? And then talk about why the need to focus on community development, and what do you hope to accomplish through the Change Happens CDC?
This building, first of all, sits in Crack Alley. Right behind this building is Crack Alley. And you can go back there and pretty much get, at the time we moved into this neighborhood, anything that you can think of. You know, you can get a $3 rock, $5 rock, $10 rock, whatever you want. So I believe that God wanted this building just where it is because of the fact that in order to help people, you got to go where the people are. This building is sitting on the porch, what my granddaddy used to call it, poach. It's sitting on people's front porch where they can access the services right here. And one thing that I've learned about this neighborhood is that we'll get on the bus and we'll go get food stamps, we'll go get some welfare, and we'll go get some bread and some butter and some cheese, but we won't go get on the bus and go get no counseling and go get no help for our addiction. So we have to bring it to where the people are. And in that process of bringing and buying the crack houses here, we began to look at the whole neighborhood and look at the blocks around the building and the crack houses, and we decided to begin to do some community development, meaning through the housing and the housing stock in the area. So my whole philosophy is that in order to change an individual, the neighborhood has to change also. So we began to buy up property and acquire this property, and we developed this Community Development Corp to go about doing this. And so we actually have now almost 4 blocks just right here in this area that we've acquired that Change Happens CDC owns now. And so the community, they look at it and say, change happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, could you in some way, you mentioned the word addiction, could you in some way, did you identify with any of the clients? I've noticed that organizations and ministries that help people, that the people that they're helping, in some way they can identify with the person that's trying to help them, and the person that's trying to help can identify with those.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I grew up in the inner city of Shreveport. And right there, you know, crack cocaine was not the drugs of choice at that particular time. It was alcohol, it was marijuana, it was heroin. And so those were the drugs that was rampant during my day. And I actually was able to see that. And while, you know, when I was a teenager, I smoked some marijuana, and I went a little bit further. I inhaled. So I know once you get addicted to certain drugs, and I just thank God that I didn't use any heavier drugs in growing up because of the fact, and the reason why, I was always afraid of needles. So I couldn't do heroin or anything like that, so I just smoked marijuana. But I understand from the addiction process that addiction, once you get addicted to crack cocaine, it is one of the most difficult drugs to walk away from. And what's happening in this neighborhood is that crack cocaine is the drug of choice. And then after crack cocaine, there's then liquid crack. And liquid crack is the malt liquor that they sell only in our neighborhoods.
And when you first started out and you would look into the eyes of somebody strung out on crack, how did that impact you, and how did that impact your work?
Oh, it just gave me a bigger and a stronger desire. You know, one of the problems, one of the things that I guess caused me a lot of problems when I first started out, I wanted to save everybody. I wanted to save this whole community. And I was getting frustrated because of the fact it's like I had something that was very good, and I had gold to give them, and they wouldn't take it. I had something that could help them get from one point to another point, and they wouldn't receive it. So I was getting very frustrated, saying, why don't everybody take it? So I took the approach that Jesus took. And what Jesus did, he didn't make disciples out of everybody.
Okay.
He said one thing to them, follow me. And he made disciples out of those that was willing to follow. There are so many in this neighborhood that won't help. So we have to find them. We help those that won't help. And then the ones that don't want help, we still try to help them also if they can kind of get the picture and get on the bandwagon. But first, you start with those that won't help. And the average person that's living in addiction, that's out here on these streets, that's going through what they're going through, they won't help. So instead of trying to help the whole world, I help those that won't help. Okay. Now I'm not so frustrated.
Okay. So we talked about the dream, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into that. Because a lot of people have dreams.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point where you went from dream? What steps did you take to go from dream to reality? How did you make that happen? And talk about the tough times between the dream and reality. How did you make that happen?
I had no idea in the world how to do it.
Okay.
I didn't have a formula. I didn't have a 1, 2, 3. So I began to educate myself, first of all, on the addiction process. That was the first thing. I went over to an agency in Houston, and I began to inquire about classes that I can attend to help me understand what was happening in this neighborhood. So I took classes on adult children of alcoholics. I took classes on the whole addiction process. So I began to educate myself. And then I said to myself, a lot of this stuff is not even being taught in our neighborhoods. We don't even know nothing about it. We know how to get food stamps. We know how to get all the other stuff, but we don't know how this whole addiction process works and how to get out of it. So I brought that information. In the Bible it says, for people perish for the lack of knowledge. So I educated myself first. Once I educated myself first, then I said, now let me set up an organization, because the organization I went to was located on the edge of River Oaks.
Okay.
And we were not going over there, meaning our neighborhood.
Right.
So what I did is I said, I'm going to start one here in this neighborhood. And that's where Families Under Urban and Social Attack came after the dream. So I began to educate myself. I found out what was available. I found out that they were giving away grants to educate the community about alcoholism, drug abuse, and it wasn't getting to where we were. So Families Under Urban and Social Attack at that time became an organization, and so we began to educate, we began to empower people, because I believe that education is power. And so as I look back now, it was only God that made this thing happen by giving me the desire and giving me the insight and directing me. And it also says in the Bible, it says the steps of a good man are ordered by God. I just started stepping in the direction of the dream.
Yes.
And as I stepped in that direction, God began to order those resources that I needed to make the dream become a reality. You know, Previn, I've learned one thing in these 25 years. If God tells you to do something and you have the audacity to do it, God then becomes obligated to provide the resources you need to do what he done told you to do. And so I believe without a doubt in my heart that God gave me that dream. This wasn't my choice. This wasn't my career path. I was going to do just like my daddy. I was going to finish college, start a business, and, become rich. But I am rich now. I'm rich in purpose. I'm rich in fulfillment. I'm rich in joy, and I'm rich in love.
Purpose. What do you say to the person that has a job that they hate? They're not pursuing their purpose in life. Because, I assume that when you come to this place every day, it's not, you don't get out your bed and say, I don't want to go up there to change that. You love to come to this place because it's connected to your purpose. But what do you say to that person who has not pursued their purpose? How important is it for a person to find their purpose and walk in it?
I believe that everybody has been given a purpose, and everybody has been given a gift. And that purpose and that gift that's been deposited within us and everybody is to help mankind. Now, Paul himself in the Bible, and we can learn, even if you're not a Christian, you can learn how this guy did it. His purpose was preaching and teaching the Bible, but his job was tent making. Those people that on those jobs that they don't like, learn to like them because that's just your tent making job. But when you get off, find something else to do. Find that purpose. You don't have to be working your purpose full time. You got to be a tent maker first.
Okay.
And once you get into your purpose, and if God has a place for your purpose to supply you with a full-time occupation doing it, wow, that's great. It's like I get up every morning and I get to go play in this big old playground of life. And then what's so amazing about it, I get paid for it. You know, wow, they're going to pay me to have fun helping people, what I love. So I believe that it's everybody's responsibility to find that purpose. And I'm very fortunate. I found mine at 24, and I've been pursuing it ever since. And a lot of folks, what happens to most people, Previn, is that when they look for purpose and they look for what they ought to be doing in life, they chase what they think it is, and when it don't go like they think it ought to go, then they chase something else. So they end up chasing different things in life. I've only chased one thing. That was that dream and that purpose that God put within me. And so I didn't have time to do a bunch of rabbit hunting looking for other stuff. I've only chased one thing in life. And that's been that dream I had when I was 28. And so for 31 years, I've chased it.
In over 25 years of leadership, what have you learned about yourself, and what have you learned about leadership in general?
I tell my staff, those that especially report to me and those that come to work for Change Happens, I say one of the key ingredients that you need to work for Change Happens, you got to be smarter than me. That's one of the things that I have, I guess, made a part of my management, my leadership style, is that I look and I hire people that are smarter than me. Because if they're smarter than me, they are able to bring in more creativity. They'll be able to bring into the organization more problem-solving abilities. So I very seldom get my staff bringing me problems, because when they do bring one, they got a solution to it, and that's only to sound off to me saying, "What do you think?" And 99.9% of the time, I say, "Oh, that's good." Okay. And I think that one of the successes of what I've done is that the people that work for me, they are very smart individuals, and they're young folks. And so they have masters and MBAs and LPCs and PhDs, and we have some very smart people that work here. And so I give all of that, and I've always been like that, and that's what my dad did. He taught me that.
Okay.
He didn't know how to change a carburetor on a car and pull it. Back then they got fuel injection now. He didn't know how to pull a carburetor, but he found the best carburetor rebuilder in Shreveport
And hired him.
I learned that from him.
Okay.
And also I learned from my daddy one thing. He always used to say this one thing: "Boy, if you want to make money, you got to spend money." And I believe that when you spend money on things that's good for the dream, the purpose, it only enhances it.
You got to invest in your future.
Absolutely, absolutely. I got a young lady that works for me, our senior director, Ms. Helen Stagg. She taught me something, and she taught me something real critical about 8 years ago. She said, "Reverend Smith, you know, in order for someone to do a good job, we got to make sure they have the proper resources to do it. Because if we give them what they need, they can run with it." So I've learned that I'm a hands-off manager. I let I have 5 people that report basically to me, and they are there on. And one of the things that we have put within this culture of the organization is everybody is a CEO here.
Okay.
They have a portion of the business that they are responsible for, and they have to run it like they're the CEO of that business. They have to have the CEO mentality. So everybody here has that CEO mentality that I have a part of this business that I'm responsible for, and whatever it does, it's a reflection of me. So, meaning themselves. So they run it like it's their business.
Okay. So as we conclude this interview, when the historians look back on this time period in history, 50 to 100 years from now, and they look at the work of Leslie Smith, what do you hope will be said about your work and your legacy?
Well, first of all, that I had a deep love for people that I wanted to save the world. But I didn't get to save the whole world, but I saved the world I was in. And not only that, I hope that they would say that I was a good father to my 5 children. And I hope that they would say that I made a difference in life and what life is all about. Because why go through life and you ain't made no difference? Just to share quickly, I've just taken on a family, and this mom and dad, they got 9 kids, and I got 9 kids. She's 33, and dad is probably 36, and they got 9 kids. And I've taken this family on just to be a mentor, to be a help, because all my kids are grown. I love helping. I even go all the way down to Haiti to help because I love helping, but I've taken this family on just to help. And this is outside of Change Happens, and I feel that God placed these folks in front of me to help. And I believe that God places folks in front of everybody to get something from somebody. And it ain't just money, it's just a listening ear, being a mentor, saying, okay, what's best, someone to talk to. So I'm having fun, and the last thing I hope they say, he had a whole lot of fun doing it. He had a whole lot of fun living life, and I hope that those are the type things. I don't think I'm a legend, a living legend, but I appreciate this moment of being recognized as a living legend, because there's still so much more work to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of sketched out my homegoing celebration already. People I want to talk at the celebration, and people who are gonna speak, and how I want that last day of me being on this earth to be about. So it's gonna be fun too.
Still directing. From
the grave, I'm gonna still have
And
how I
just who you
want it. I love life, and I love, from a little kid. I know at least 5 years old, I always wanted to run the world. I'm serious. I always wanted to run the world. So I just run my world and do all I can to make my world a better place.
Reverend Smith, let me thank you for your time and your commitment.
Thank you.
And all that you do to help families, to empower families. May God continue to bless Change Happens to be the change in the community. God bless you.
Hallelujah. Thank you, President, for letting me be a part of this.
Yes, sir.